Like, this is the future we need to start to think about. Like, this is an amenity, this is infrastructure that shouldn't be a nice to have. It should be what we have to basically create a livable, scalable city for everyone.
What are the problems that your company is solving for each of your constituent stakeholders, right? We talked about kind of the high level. There's the climate impact, the need for electrification is one lever that we pull in our fight against climate change, all of that good stuff. But you actually need to change behavior at a human level and at a small organizational level. So what problems are you solving for the city? What problems are you solving for property owners? And how do you convince them to get engaged?
Yeah. So I have a bunch of different answers for this. But I want to start with a little bit about the model in terms of just how that works specifically. So it's electric, puts in the chargers, but to do so, we first need permission from that city to operate, right?
Okay.
Once we have permission from that city, we then go find what we call our partner properties, which is literally any building, residential, commercial, public, private, anything in between, that if you go into that basement of that building and they've got 2 slots open on their electrical panel, they can support a charger in front of their building.
Yep.
We then do all of the permitting, all of the construction, and we put a charger in. After we get that permit, it takes us 2 days to install. 1 day of interior work in the basement of that building, 1 day of exterior to put the charger in the ground and to run that conduit between the charger and the building. The buildings that we work with, what's in it for them is that, to answer your question directly now, is that we revenue share back to them. So they're getting passive income every quarter. If they drive an EV, they now have an immediately local charging solution. If they don't drive an EV and they have tenants, they are providing an amenity. And in some cities, we're going to look to see where there's going to be a future where there's potential worlds of tax credits that building owners will start to get when they start to take certain steps towards electrification.
So there's real and effectively immediate economic upside. And framed as a problem, I assume there's there's underutilized electrical capacity, blah, blah, blah. But is there anything else that you're whether it's emotional, economic, or otherwise, that you're sort of solving for property managers, property owners, that gets them on board? Or is it all about the dollars and cents and the rev share?
No, I mean, it's so funny. Let's put it this way. If we put a charger in front of a single family home in a working class neighborhood like Jackson Heights, Queens, here in New York City, where we actually happen to have the highest density of rideshare drivers in the entire country, and where New York City has actually a regulation on the books called the Green Rides Initiative, which requires that all Uber, all Lyft, all TLC are electric and or have wheelchair accommodations by 2030. We're putting in that infrastructure for that rideshare driver so that they are actually not only able to earn money from anyone else that charges there, but that it gives them the chance to charge every night, overnight. Because without that, in a city like New York, rideshare drivers have to go out to JFK Airport to charge right now.
Yeah.
There's few and far between charging. So there's absolutely the economic case to be made. There's also the amenity. I look to a future where you're on Zillow and you can not only see, for example, if you're looking at an apartment, you can say, oh, this has, central air conditioning, which is, super cool if you can get that in a city like New York. But you can also be like, oh, it has a curbside EV charger. This is the future we need to start to think about. This is an amenity, this is infrastructure that shouldn't be a nice to have. It should be what we have to basically create a livable, scalable city for everyone.
So I love that vision, and it's kind of interesting because I almost think you're arguing against the Zillow example that you just made, as in a way, right? Because ideally we actually don't want to think about this, right? Ideally, you just know that at the neighborhood level, the urban level, this infrastructure is pervasive and it's
Yeah.
there. And I think one of the things that I love about what you're doing, and you may describe this very differently than kind of me as a naive outsider, but one of the things that I love about what you're doing is that you're flipping this whole question of electrification away from things like, how do I find a spare parking lot? How do I sign a deal with Walmart? How do I put in heavy duty electrical equipment? How do I replace the gas station, which people are familiar with as a destination that you go to fuel up your vehicle, with the idea that you never actually even have to think about this?
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
that's how it should be, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. It we always say it's not chicken or egg. It's all egg. People can't convert to an electric vehicle if they have to even think for a minute about where they're going to charge.
Yeah, that's right.
If you just put the infrastructure out there, you get that conversion, you get that adoption. Our favorite story is when we put our first charger in the ground in Boston. Often the partner properties that sign up with us do include someone who lives in the building who drives an EV. But this particular building, our very first one in Boston, they all drove internal combustion engines. And within 48 hours of installing the charger, he sold his ICE vehicle and he bought an EV.
And this is not, and just to paint the picture for everyone, this is a curbside installation, not a
Mm-hmm.
reserved parking space in a garage. Is that right?
That is correct. This is a curbside public charging.
And so that one little tweak, the existence of that right there,
Mhm.
was able to kind of flip the switch for this person.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
it
That's
is.
so cool.
And then
All right,
immediately,
let me.
the auto mall that sold him the car called us and said, "You have no idea how many people come in and test drive an EV, but then don't make the lease or the purchase because they have nowhere to charge,"
Yeah.
which we all know is the case. So now, like, we're working with this used EV auto mall in Massachusetts to help people who come in sign up to get our chargers. I also want to say, just so your listeners are clear, we are free to cities and we are free to building owners.
Yeah.
We do all the work, and we collect the revenue and then share it with the building. And then just to answer really quickly your point about what's in it for cities, really important right now. So we are now living in an age in which cities cannot rely on any federal subsidies for infrastructure. It's gone.
It's gone.
It's not a wait and see. It's gone. So how are they supposed to meet their targets without that massive influx of cash that they were getting from the federal government?
So this is an example of, maybe constraint opening up opportunity for better innovation, right? Again, like maybe
100%.
you don't need the billions of dollars of capital for those highly concentrated, developed high density charging centers that are maybe the
Mhm.
wrong approach anyway.
Yeah,
That's
no,
I mean, there's a bit of silver lining there.
it's a pain. I mean, like, our model has always been that we're free to cities. And we were having very healthy conversations with a lot of cities that had received that federal funding in 2024, because we're still in the game to respond to RFPs. We're not ruled out because we're free. But in the absence of that federal funding, the conversation has definitely the tone of the conversation has greatly shifted. Boston, where we first deployed, they have one of the highest sea level rises of any city,
Yeah.
in terms of what's projected. And you have to look at it as sort of like, this is long-term planning to ensure a strong economic outturn for a city. Like, people can't go to work, people can't go to school if the streets are flooded.